Welcome to the Steeler Postgame Show here on Oneberg. Glad you could join us. Sponsored by Shenderovich, and Fishman. Final score from Cleveland tonight: the Steelers fall to the Browns 24-19. A disappointing loss for the Black and Gold, as from the very beginning things were not going the Steelers' way. They struggled throughout the night. They had a little bit of momentum in the fourth quarter, but it was all for nothing late, as they couldn't stop Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns offense when it mattered the most. Under 2 minutes left in this game, Browns go down and score with just 57 seconds left when Nick Chubb took it in from a yard out. The Steelers' last-ditch efforts on that last drive were all for none, as they couldn't get the go-ahead score to come back and win the game there at the end. The Steelers fall to 8-3 on the year. The Browns, meanwhile, they improve to 3-8 as they upset the Steelers at home. And the Steelers, this is a game in which we talked about the last couple of weeks, could be a trap game for them, and turned out that was exactly the case. Joining me here on the postgame show is my good friend, Brian Carruthers. Brian, good evening to you. Steelers fall to the Brownies tonight, 24-19, a rough one in the snow in Cleveland.
Well, I mean, let's temper our Yinzer expectations that we have to win every game, that TJ Watt has to have 30 sacks every game, that Russell Wilson has to score 40 touchdowns every game. We lost on the road to a rival. It was the best rival to lose to. They make up no ground. They're not in playoff contention because they did it. It wasn't even an AFC opponent that even matters in this. So I think enjoy it for what it is. I think to break it down and not address the elephant in the room, that the weather was so insanely ridiculous during this game. So to say that we had the wrong play calls, that Chubb beat us up, that Winston's a stud, I don't know, man. We played in a blizzard backyard style, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, weather conditions, from a football standpoint and a fan standpoint, especially when you're sitting
Dude, you know
inside
that you have a piece of paper covering your camera?
Oh, I do not. Thank you. Is that better? I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I'm glad you pointed that out.
So I thought you were doing like a thing where like it was the Netflix 25% thing.
No, I was trying to show what the screen looked like tonight with all the snow in Cleveland. That's what I was trying to do. So,
well, it's funny. The snow was so bad at one point, like I couldn't tell if it was like just the streaming service, the white jerseys. At times, our defense in those white jerseys tonight, we look translucent, right? Like we couldn't even see them. They looked like ghosts. I didn't know. At some point, I couldn't even see where the ball was. I mean, it was just a wild, fun game to be a part of. And if to lose one, if this was the Chiefs on Christmas, if this was one of our Baltimore games, if this was even the Commanders, I think that we would go. This was a serious loss in like inopportune conditions. Tonight, it was just kind of a Thursday night circus, one that like you kind of already thought we would come in and lose in.
yeah, I think all season long, playing on a short week, being the road team on Thursday night never turns out too well for anybody, whoever that road team is on a short week. Though you can make the case that Pittsburgh's only 2.5 hours from Cleveland. It's not too far of a trip, but still, it's a short week on the road in a hostile environment like Cleveland. It doesn't matter if the Browns are 1-9 or 9-1. This is their Super Bowl when they play the Pittsburgh Steelers. So no doubt.
I mean, dude, I just was watching the finale. Jameson Winston is waving to the crowd. Chubb's waving, that coach. I mean, this was their Super Bowl victory. So I guess they got it. No real harm to us, I guess, overall. Now, if we lose to Cincinnati next week and Cleveland comes back with some momentum and all of a sudden, without really realizing it, we're 8-5. All right, this was the beginning of the of a bad stretch for us. But for tonight, yeah, I mean, I guess let Cleveland burn down the house. Hey, let me ask you quickly. I know you want to recap, but what happened at the end of the game there? Was George Pickens dragged into the dog pound at the end of the game? Were you still watching it?
Yeah, that I did see that at the end, and there were a couple security guards or somebody holding him up as well.
Right.
So it absolutely looked like something happened with him and some fans there in Cleveland at the end of that play. And even on the replay, they kept showing it. I kept waiting for them to show what happened, and they didn't.
Right. It looked like he got shoved. A lot of guys were going a lot deeper out of bounds tonight. I mean, we saw that leading off with Kazay and all those guys, and they're fighting in basically they're taking him into the stands, throwing him over the bleachers.
Yeah.
That looks like what happened, but you never know with Pickens. He's a wild card. Like
He is.
He's like 50% digital, 50% cable. Like it's all kind of blending together. There it is. It's all kind of blending together. And I didn't know. Did he get dragged into the dog pound? But I'm sure it'll be addressed. I'm sure we'll talk about it on Coach T's press conference.
Brian, you brought up an interesting point. As a fan at home watching that game in the comfort of your furnace and your warm house, it was awesome to watch. It was a perfect football atmosphere. You're in
Oh
Cleveland,
yeah.
blue collar, tough environment, just like Pittsburgh. The snow's coming down. It's almost Thanksgiving. It's a week before Thanksgiving. I mean, this is football, man. This is, again, bummer that the Steelers lost. 8-3 ends their 5-game win streak. Again, this was a game that I had circled on the schedule early on in the season that I put down as a loss even before they went on this 5-game win streak, just simply because it's a short week at Cleveland. The Steelers never play good on the road on Thursday Night Football. And I was hoping I was going to be wrong. As the week went on, I actually gained more confidence. I think I texted you before the game and said, hey, man, I think I got this all wrong. All week long, I kept saying we were going to lose. I'm wrong. They're going to win tonight. They're going to win. But it didn't look good early on. Chris Boswell misses that 58-yard field goal in the opening drive. 58 yards, by the way, in the snow.
Yeah, and that was before the blizzard too. So like that should have had a lot of potential. But then you saw how much that ball moved. Let me ask this: do you think we would have lost that game if it was just a light rain and not a blizzard?
I still think so. Yeah. If anything, I think the snow slowed both teams down. Maybe it's a little bit more high scoring at the end of all this because the Steelers defense tonight, snow or no snow, they struggled. I mean, they could not really stop that Cleveland offense. Again, I thought they got some momentum going on the turnover late in the game there in that fourth quarter when they then took the lead on that next offensive series. I felt good. I thought, okay, here we go. The Browns are going to sink. They're going to do what the Browns typically do. The Steelers are going to pull out another close one. But then that punt, man, that was the key. That's the turning point in this game. Waitman's 15-yard punt. He shanked it. It went to midfield, and it basically gift wrapped the Browns at that point because all he needed is a field goal, and they're already at the Steeler, I think, 44, 46-yard line. You're past midfield. They have a good kicker. That changed the game, at least in my opinion. The Waitman shank punt late in the game that gave the Browns new life past midfield.
It did, and I think you can do two things with this weather, like I did when we first came on, which was blame everything on the weather and move on. But they both had a play in it, and it is a game that we ultimately do need. You need every win that you can. I do think it was fortunate that it was against Cleveland. The only thing that would be better is if we played another jabroni team that it didn't really matter for. But yeah, that punt, man, and again, everyone's battling the same conditions. Cleveland, to their credit, didn't want to do that. They were, they had that the field goal kicker lined up, warming up his foot right in that heater and getting everything ready. And they're like, "There's no chance in hell we're bringing that guy in. We're not gonna leave him there." So they left it in Winston's capable hands, and he made it work. By the way, did the CTE really start to show on Winston tonight? Did you see his pregame interview where he thanked God and he's just blessed to be here in this snowy weather in Cleveland? And I mean,
so weird,
dude, he is so weird. He's so weird.
He's always been known for that. If you watch, say, the pregame tonight, and they do this every time he plays in a game, he's known for like doing rap songs and different motivation things with his team. Very entertaining. But yeah, more to me, man, during that pregame interview, it wasn't so much what he said, give all praise to God. That's cool. But I mean, the way he looked, he kept
He's like,
yeah, he kept looking up and like his eyes were going all over the place. It was
like he's never played in a game before. Like he's never even been at a stadium before. He was just blown away by this crowd. And it was just, I thought to myself, I don't know if you did, I was like, we're winning. This Jameis Winston he's kooky. He's a cuckoo. But no, he turned it up. He turned it up.
It was definitely very weird, that's for sure, right at the beginning. I'm glad you caught it because I did too. It is the Shenderovich, and Fishman Steeler postgame show here on Oneberg. Glad you could join us on our Oneberg Facebook channel, Oneberg YouTube, or maybe you're listening back on Spotify. Final score from Cleveland tonight, the Browns defeat the Steelers 24-19. Brian, Deshaun Elliott forced a fumble on the Browns' opening second half drive. Dante Jackson recovers. The Steelers go for it on 4th and 1 at midfield, but the Browns stuff Warren for no gain. It was the second 4th down and short stop of the game against the Steelers. I have no problem with Tomlin and the Steelers going for it on fourth down. But they did it with Fields earlier in the game. And let's face it, when Fields comes in, especially in a short yardage situation, defenses most of the time know it's probably going to be a rush.
I agree with you. The only thing that I was saying to my son, we were watching the game, and I said to him as we were talking about Fields was the only thing that did help. And in that particular case, he came out and everybody in the whole building, even Winston, was like, he's going to run. Um,
Great.
Fields did show that he will pass, and so he did open it up. So,
Yeah.
as Baltimore and as Kansas City and as Cleveland again and the Bengals all start to prep for the Steelers, they do know that Fields will throw. So I was disappointed that we came out so one-dimensional with Fields because he's supposed to be that thing that makes every defense call timeout. We don't know what to do. Fields in. We got to talk about it. So before the snow came, we're going to be, BS before the storm, AS after the storm, or during the storm, whatever you would say. That first half, Pittsburgh was used and abused. The defense didn't look very good, and all the chances we took on offense turned up flat. It was probably our worst half of the season. Take away the blizzard of the second half where we kind of fought through and came back. But that first half, man, even though it was only 10-3. Against Kansas City, that would have been 24-3. Against Buffalo, that would have been 21-3. It just happened to be Cleveland, so it was 10-3.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, what you say in the first half, the Steelers go down 7-3 with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. The first lead of the game taken by the Browns on a Nick Chubb 1-yard touchdown run, his first of 2 tonight. It capped an 80-yard scoring drive in which the Browns just moved and marched the ball right on the Steelers, right down the field. And then Wilson fumbles late in that first half. And it's Myles Garrett, man. He had a big game. 3 sacks in the first half. Huge game. That gave the Browns or kept the Browns up 10-3 at halftime. But Myles Garrett, the Steeler offensive line did not play well tonight. I thought Frazier at center had an off night. Dan Moore, who's played so well at that other tackle position opposite side of Broderick Jones, he struggled tonight to contain Myles Garrett. They didn't have an answer for Myles Garrett tonight, and he, much like TJ Watt does in a lot of these games, Myles Garrett took over and is a big reason why the Browns got this win.
The Garrett and Watt battle is fascinating for me. I do like it. It's kind of like when Peyton Manning would play Tom Brady. It really was the battle between those guys, even though they're not on the field at all at the same time. But it is one to watch. Garrett and Watt are exceptional athletes. They're monsters. I thought it was going to be a fun battle to see both of these guys start to really tear offensive lines apart and get in there, and it was going to be that battle. Now, again, the snow did have a factor in that, but that first half, man, was all Garrett. Watt was kind of a double team, triple teamed, isolated out of that game tonight. So while I'm sure he wreaked havoc in his own way, the splashes that we are looking for and quite honestly need from him, it just didn't come. It just didn't come together.
The Steelers in the second half, they did convert a 4th and 1. Wilson hit Muth on a first down pass. The Steelers settled for a Boz 28-yard field goal in the snow, and it was a 10-6 game with a minute 56 left in the third. Winston on 4th and goal, though, he avoids the rush and scores on a 1-yard touchdown run, the 2-point conversion pass.
That was big.
Yeah, it was 18-6 Browns with 12-16 left. The Browns tonight, at that point, they were 0 for 7 on third down, but 3 for 3 on fourth downs. I know they finished the game later on, 4 of 4 on fourth down conversions, and like 0 and 8 or 0 and 9 on third down conversions. Just amazing, man. The Steelers could not stop the Browns tonight on fourth down.
But again, when you think about it, and we had the shank in that fourth quarter of the punt, were we somewhat outcoached tonight? That we weren't going. The Browns refused to send their kicking squad and their special teams out there when we did to try to power through. We had a Boswell miss, and we had like you said, a shank kick that went 15 yards or 16 yards. I feel like we tried to outwill the weather a little bit, and that didn't necessarily work. And it showed, man. This game, the difference of this game, and now I guess we will say they went up with that touchdown, but that Boswell field goal miss in the beginning was tough, and again, you said that punt. You're spot on. It changed everything.
Well, we're gonna get to some comments here in a little bit on Oneberg, and we
Oh,
welcome
are
your
there
comments.
comments?
But when we go to the comments, to answer your question, where they outcoached, of course, what do you think the majority of these comments are about?
See,
Like,
now, no, I can't see what the comments are on my screen. I see two versions of myself and one of Ed. I don't see any of the comments. But if I had to play that Yinzer or guess that Yinzer or whatever game we're playing, we don't blame Mother Nature. We don't blame Miles Garrett. There's one person who screwed this whole game up for us tonight in the comment section, and it's got to be Tomlin, right?
100%, man.
All
This
right, let's
loss is
get
on
to them. What do we got?
this is on Tomlin, and well, let's start out here, and Alan's going to start it off.
Wait, I can't even see them. Can I predict what they say?
Sure. Well, here's Alan.
Oh, okay, put his up now. I want you to know, just full disclosure, I have no idea what these say. I cannot see them. The first prediction that Alan said was typical Tomlin primetime performance. Teams not ready to play.
0-8 on TNF. Go Tomlin. Close.
Okay,
Close
I
enough.
mean, okay, we're kind of in the same vein here, right?
Tracy checks in. Do you want to guess
Okay.
that one?
Yeah, I do want to guess. Tracy's going to say Tomlin's too worried about coming up with press conference Tomlinisms instead of coaching his team.
Nah, let's throw deep on third and short in a blizzard. There you go.
Hey, you know what? I will say.
And she disagrees with you. She thinks this is a serious loss. Look at the upcoming schedule. You need to win and beat a terrible team.
Okay, yes, I agree. But Tracy, and I think Ed will maybe agree, if, feel free not to. My point is, in a blizzard, all bets are off, right? We can't control this weather. You couldn't even see the ball.
Right.
Of all the teams to lose to, the Browns are not chasing anybody except themselves to the draft. And so for all those teams to lose to, tonight to the Browns was our best loss as far as the playoff picture goes. So that was my point, Tracy, is that yes, I do think you need a win. A win is a win is a win. However, if we're going to lose to somebody, you might as well lose to the Browns in a blizzard and let them have their Super Bowl. Did we lose Ed?
I am back.
He's back. Welcome back to the show, Ed Troop.
You know, I'm in the game room, and I got a cool. I thought you more than anybody would be impressed because Brian for weeks or months has been telling me I need to get a TV with my setup. So tonight I'm testing it out. I got the Oneberg YouTube channel up behind me. I was going to play something, but I didn't have enough time to find something. So the general page is up, but then the screensaver. Oh, there it goes. That's back on. Sorry, can't help you. So the screensaver's back on. I'm not going to disrupt our show again to try to figure out how to get the screensaver off. But you can kind of see it back here. It looks kind of cool. Hey, let's get
one
back.
thing I wanted to say to Tracy too, where she said, third and one, and you throw a bomb in a blizzard. She's not wrong. It's on theory and on paper, it's silly. But did you think, except for the one throw to Pickens where his body was turned the wrong way in the fourth quarter, and remember, we were in a serious blizzard snowstorm. I thought Wilson and Fields were kind of more accurate than I thought they would be in this blizzard. We at least threw a lot more, but completed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people fully understand to throw a wet football, how difficult that is. And in NFL football, just an FYI for those out there that don't know, the NFL football is huge. It's way bigger than a high school football, way bigger than a youth football. An NFL-sized football is the biggest. Now, it's lighter. If you ever pick up an NFL football, one big difference you will see, it is very light compared to a high school football, college football, or a youth football. So that's why I think quarterbacks can throw it further. But it's man, when football and the leather gets wet, whether it's snowy or rain, it's extremely hard to throw. And because football is so light, it's hard to throw in the wind. So when you have the wind, and let's face it, in Cleveland, coming off of Lake Erie, that's an extremely windy place. People talk about the Steelers and the Three Rivers in and around Acrisure Stadium. In Cleveland, mistake by the lake, the winds coming off of Lake Erie can impact a game big time from a passing standpoint and from a kicking standpoint. And I agree with you, my friend. I thought the Steelers, and for that matter, Winston too. I mean, they both threw the ball a lot better than I thought they could in those conditions tonight. Hey, back to some more comments.
I was just thinking real fast when you were describing the football and how to get the good grip on it. You know what you could do to get a better grip on a wet football? Deflate it a little bit.
Oh wait, I think somebody in New England knew how to do that at one time, right?
Oh,
So
that's been done.
maybe catch
That
him
people
on
have
Fox.
deflated footballs to
He,
try to get a stronger grip on it. Oh,
he may or may not be on Fox this weekend. So just an FYI. The Steelers have a tough enough schedule coming up that they can't afford to lose to a 2-win team. Jesse says.
I agree, Jesse.
Let's see what else. Oh, here you go. Ryan checks in. Mediocre Mike was in the house. Tomlin effect at work. So there you
You
go.
know, the mediocre Mike is, I don't understand that. I know that, we battle this thing about him having losing seasons, whatever. And mediocre Mike is just a thing that I'm sure he can sleep with at night. But I will say, in fairness, I, Tomlin did go back to a special teams kicking game in a light wind, heavy rain, blizzard, and tried again outwill the weather. And I do think he made some serious mistakes tonight, thinking he could do that.
Michael says typical Tomlin trap game. You can't expect to win if you only play 1/4 of a game. The loss starts a streak of losses. It's coming, Tracy says. Tracy also says, why try a 58-yard field goal in the first place? I think she was referring to the beginning of the game. And Tracy,
Well,
man,
wait a second, Tracy and Ed. I don't know if you agree or not. Weren't we celebrating Chris Boswell? We were going to have a parade down Grant Street last week because he had 6 field goals and he was our savior. He was the AFC Player of the Week, Special Teams Player of the Week. We're going to put him in the Hall of Fame, and so
right.
we put him out there to. In today's NFL, a 58-yarder is not what it used to be, especially for Boz, who's now one of the most accurate of at least in the league currently. So wait, sending out our MVP to do what he does best, that's a mistake that Tomlin made.
Well,
I don't know. I don't agree.
And actually the kick to start the game by Boz had enough distance. It just went wide right. The wind took it wide right. He had plenty of leg to kick at 58 yards. It just went wide right. The
And why
wind did
not
it.
blame Boswell for it? Tracy's saying, "Oh, send him out there like a fool." He missed it. So I mean, who are we blaming in this? Like again, everything falls back on Tomlin, and it does become exhausting.
Sean also says with the upcoming schedule, it kills to lose to a 2-8 team, no matter who it is. That's the common theme tonight, and people aren't wrong
I
about that.
agree.
I
I
mean,
agree. Don't you think? I mean, a loss. I mean, is
right.
a loss is a loss is a loss, right? And so I get it. I'm trying to just so we can all go to bed tonight and not start drinking. It may have been the best team to lose to. Cleveland's never going to catch up to us. That's all I'm saying.
Alan says the O-line was terrible tonight. Alan, I mentioned that earlier with Zach Frazier and Dan Moore Jr. at that tackle position. I thought they struggled too, in particular up against Myles Garrett. Brian, I do want to touch on this sequence of events after the Browns had gone up in this football game, late 18-6. The Steelers kind of got things going. They brought Justin Fields into the football game at quarterback, and it gave the offense a spark, in particular him running the football on the ground. He took the Steelers all the way down inside the Browns' 30-yard line, gave them a nice spark. They moved the ball quickly. Wilson came back in for a few plays, and then Fields caps it off with a Warren touchdown. That made it 18-13 with 7:57 left. I liked Fields coming into the game at that point to change things up a little bit, use his legs. And in those snowy conditions, he was able to move the ball downfield pretty quickly against that Browns defense.
I guess no one's going to convince me differently that like I don't know if anybody can really be now. Maybe you go back to Tomlin, maybe you go back to mediocre Mike. Maybe I'll give you that. But in this chess match, in a normal week, I think you can debate that. And I agree with you. It did mix it up. The speed of that drive put Pittsburgh back in contention to win that game. But when you're in that blizzard, man, I mean, all bets are off
I agree
on those. So I just think it's a hard game to break down and dissect and say, look, it sucks that we lost. It sucks that we lost to a 2-8 Browns team. All that, guys. I totally get it. But I just think that this is one of those that we're going to have to brush off. If we're starting to say, if we're Yinzer doomsdaying it, we're like, well, here comes the beginning of the skid. Well, I don't know what I have. I don't got anything for you. It was just an unfortunate night to play a game.
Here was the turning point of the game in which I thought this was the point where I thought the Steelers were actually going to pull this game out. Again, 18-13 Browns, 7:57 left. It was time for the defense to get some pressure on Winston, force a turnover, do something for the first time tonight, and they come through. Nick Herbig forces the fumble. The Steelers recover at the
Huge.
Browns huge play. Recover the football at the Browns 27-yard line, 7:05 left. It leads to the big Russell Wilson to Calvin Austin 23-yard touchdown pass. The Steelers take their first lead of the game, 19-18, with 6:15 left. The 2-point conversion pass was no good. On the next Browns possession, Winston.
Which, by the way, just interrupt for a second, that 2-point conversion pass from Wilson was absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Again, in those conditions, now we're nitpicking every pass now, but that was not a well thought out moment. He was the only receiver even out there, and
Right.
so I didn't understand that.
So the 2-point conversion pass, not good. The Steelers come back on the next Browns possession, and they force another turnover, second turnover in a row. This time, Winston's intercepted by Dante Jackson at the Steelers 22 with 4:22 left. Again, another sign that I thought this game was going to go in Pittsburgh's favor, but the Steelers go 3 and out, and that's when the horrible shank punt by Waitman came into play. By the way, Waitman has been solid all year as a punter for the Steelers. That was really his first bad punt of the season. Remember, they had Johnston, who they signed from the Texans in the offseason. Cam Johnston, they brought in. He was their free agent pickup at the punter position, the answer to Percy Harvin, who was so awful the last few years. And Johnston got hurt early on in camp and at the preseason. He's out for the season. They bring Waitman in. He has punted excellent, not good, excellent all season long. He's flipped field position for him multiple times. But, man, that was an awful punt. You can blame the weather. You can blame whatever. He shanked it, and it gave the Browns life at midfield.
Well, look, if the weather's turning in the Northeast, this might be where this rest of the season goes. So we have Baltimore on the road, Cincinnati on the road, Cleveland at home, 3 AFC North games. All those games could be in the snow and the cold. On Christmas Day, we're going to see Kansas City. When we go to the playoffs, we're going to go on the road to Buffalo, Kansas City. We're playing cold football from now on out. So we might as well get used to these conditions. And again, if this was our tryout or our little feel out how this goes, fine. We did it against the Browns. Well, let me ask you this, Ed, because I couldn't figure it out. I was back and forth on it. What team in this blizzard tonight do you think had the uniform advantage? The Browns in the bright orange or the Steelers in the all white?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because late in the game, I started thinking when there was a pass that Winston threw, and boy, I can't think off the top of my head who the defensive back was that almost intercepted. It came out of nowhere. And even Kirk Herbstreit, I think, made the comment on air. He said, boy, Winston's got to be really careful there. It might have been KZ or somebody coming across trying to get to that football. And he said, man, you got to be careful. He almost threw that right into his hands. And I'm thinking to myself, he probably didn't see him, right? The Steelers are in all white jerseys. I know they have the black helmets and a little bit of yellow on there, but I'm thinking if you're throwing that football deep downfield, it's harder to see a white jersey than an orange jersey. Now, you can make the argument, like you said, an orange jersey sticks out, obviously in whiteout conditions. But I think advantage Steelers with the white jersey. I do.
I agree with you. At first, I thought the same thing, like the hunting gear situation, right? Like they're in all that orange. But man, with that blizzard coming down, and remember, they're seeing so many things: the lights from the stadium, the background colors of the crowd. All the photographers have different things on. I don't know if you specifically say, oh, I can make out where a jersey is and where a helmet is. I'm sure it takes extreme focus, which a lot of the guys have, but I thought advantage steel at first. Again, I thought the Elmer Fudd thing in yellow and orange, it all made sense. But no, I think to have those ghosts out there was pretty cool. And it showed. I mean, look at that interception that Winston now we couldn't hold on to it, of course, because we had to punt it away and we lost. But that last interception should have been the nail in the coffin. And I wonder if that would have been an explanation of, look, I just couldn't see anybody.
Even if they pick up a first down instead of going 3 and out, man, it probably gets another couple minutes off the game clock, gets them closer to midfield. But unfortunately, the Steelers go 3 and out. They have the horrible punt. It gives the Browns life at the Steeler 45-yard line. It was a 15-yard punt with 3 minutes left. The Browns, though, they do face another 4th and 4 on that drive. And once again, the Browns convert 4 of 4 on 4th down tonight. Chubb goes in from a yard out with just 57 seconds left. Brian, once they got the ball inside the 10, I knew it was just a matter of time before Chubb would score that. Now, there was some talk whether Tomlin should have used the timeout, conserve some clock with about a minute
Do you
10
think
left.
he should have done that? I mean, we had one left to try to keep that offensive drive alive. Would you prefer Tomlin to call TO?
Even a field goal at that point, that's all they needed. 3 points gives them the lead, let alone a touchdown. Maybe conserve some clock. It's tough. There's only one timeout left. If you had all three, absolutely, you're going to take all those timeouts, conserve the clock, get the ball back. But I actually thought to myself, I hope the defense actually lets the Browns score so they can at least give Wilson and the offense a chance, because I was worried they were going to run that clock all the way down to 20 seconds, kick the field goal, win
In
the
less
game.
than 60 seconds is really, really tough.
And I'm sure the argument is from Tomlin and the coaching staff is they were trying to force a turnover. They had two.
Sure,
They had
of
two in the
course.
second half. They had 2 turnovers in the second half. They just forced Winston on that last possession for an interception. So it makes sense. Maybe you get a turn. That's the only way the Steelers win that game tonight, in my opinion, is if they would have forced the turnover and stopped.
And you know what? The odds probably were 75-25 that it would have been a turnover because of the conditions, because it's just so unpredictable. I'll tell you who the big winner is tonight: HBO. If you're not ready to watch Hard Knocks, Life in the
Great.
AFC North, in the summer when they debuted it, the logo of it is like this giant snowplow, snow plowing to show like where the 40-yard line is. And in the summer, you're enjoying the wonderful weather, baseball's on, maybe you're at the beach, it's great, and you look at it and you go, man, it hasn't snowed for a Steeler game, what they're depicting in this, for like years, and now we have it. HBO is just, they can't wait, licking their chops, and it's going to be fun to see, man, because hand it to the Browns. They are playing upsetter right now, right? They did it to the Ravens, they did it to us. They're not going to the playoffs, but they can ruin a lot of seasons. And in the words of Bill Cowher, misery loves company. And that seems like that really is motivating them to go after these AFC North teams. Nothing is given nothing is given in the AFC North.
Jeff checks in. He agrees with me, Brian, and what you were saying too. The Steelers had the advantage in the snow with the white uniforms, and they didn't use that to their advantage, playing defense. Rob says, leave cold football in the league. We don't need a dome every game. This is why we watch football. Yeah, remember, was that Cleveland is it Cleveland that the rumor is they want to put a dome in Cleveland with their
Well, remember,
stadium?
that's both. So that's Cleveland is going to have a dome. Cincinnati wants to put money together to figure out what to do, either currently dome that loser stadium they have now, or, flavor of the decade, tear it down and build something new. But yeah, both of those teams want domes. Buffalo is going to be, when they're finished next year, their stadium will be 75% domed. The field will still be uncovered, but the fans won't get crushed, which I guess that's what they like. But I agree with whatever that guy's name was who just said that. I can't see, but I agree with you, man.
That's
This is
Rob.
what you want, man. It was, screw SoFi Stadium and all these domes. This is what we want to see, man. We want some weather, and we want it in a bad way. This got me excited about football again.
Well, with all those weather conditions, how about this? Russell Wilson has his best game as a Steeler so far. Threw for 270 yards in the snow tonight. 21 of 28, only 7 incomplete passes, a touchdown, no interceptions. Jaylen Warren goes for 45 yards rushing. Najee Harris, 41 yards rushing. Calvin Austin, 78 yards receiving. George Pickens, 4 catches, 48 yards. Pat Freiermuth, 4 catches for 59 yards. Meanwhile, on the other side, though, for the Browns, Jameson Winston, 18 of 27, 219. No touchdowns and interception.
Are you calling him Jameson Winston?
Yeah, Jameson Winston.
Jameis
Winston. Man, you're always correcting me on these names. Holy cow.
No, it's only because I was doing the same thing, and then I was listening to Herb Street say it, and I was like, I had to look at the name on paper to be like that, because I've always called him Jameson Winston. But I think it's just because, are we white guys? Are we old white guys? What doesn't work here? But it's
Jameson.
just
Yeah.
No, Jameis.
Jameis.
Jameson is what all of your Irish friends name their traditional dink kids or yuppie kids are all named Jameson.
That's right.
Jameis is an original.
Jameis Winston. There you go, my
That's
friend.
it. But it's so easy to say Jameson Winston, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, and I think a lot of announcers get that wrong too. I heard Herb Streak tonight and a couple others, but yeah, he throws for 219 yards, no touchdowns, and interception. The Steelers hold Nick Chubb tonight. He had those 2 rushing touchdowns, which were killer, but he had 20 carries for 59 total yards rushing. So once again, the Steelers' run defense contains who they have to with that running game. Chubb only 59 yards rushing, but 2 key 1-yard touchdown runs to lead the Browns tonight. Here's the guy that killed him, Jerry Jeudy, who used to play for the Broncos. He had 6 catches for 85 yards and some key killer 3rd and 4th down catches tonight.
And can I just say, I just quickly back on that run game, and I know how stupid this sounds because when people say, man, if we just had a Big Ben type come in and save the day. Yeah, if we just had a first ballot Hall of Famer come in and save the day. But man, isn't this a game that you really miss Jerome Bettis in? I mean, this weather was meant for him. This game's meant for him. And he was a guy, when you said that Chubb had 20 carries for 50 yards, Bettis in this game would have had 25 carries for 90 yards, right? And he would have gunned this out. It would have been boring Bill Cowher football, but instead it's a little different. Although I will say, I do think watching Warren run is really a fun thing. Not that Najee is not having a great year or isn't equally explosive, but there's just something bust-like about Jalen Warren.
He runs so hard. I mean, he is fun to watch, man. And he's just such a good change of pace running back with Najee Harris, who runs very hard too, but Warren's a little bit different. He's just a little bit more agile. And when he can hit that hole and make those cuts, I agree with you. Myles Garrett tonight, 5 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for losses as well.
Killer.
Got to listen to this, got to Russell Wilson 3 times, 3 quarterback hits tonight as well, on top of the 3 sacks. So,
oh my God! Wait, a quarterback touch is not the same as a sack. So he got to Wilson. He got hands on him 6 times. 3 times he took him down.
3 sacks, and then 3 other times where he at least made contact.
What a night, man. What a night. And you look, if TJ is ignored again this year as Defensive Player of the Year, you got to point to this head-to-head battle. A lot of football left to play and I'm not looking for individual awards, but I mean, Myles Garrett was a monster tonight, man. He showed up.
How about the talk between the two of them this past week? That was a little bit weird too, that both of them in their individual press conferences were calling each other out. And, a lot of times when NFL players do that, they're having fun because they know the other guy. But, man, this seemed like a little serious about the Defensive Player of the Year. Apparently, Myles Garrett was upset that Watt didn't congratulate him, and Watt played it off completely and said, this isn't about me and him. It's about the Steelers versus Browns, which was the right answer.
Yeah, that's the right answer. I love trash talk, so I like to hear these things go on. I hate right when the second the game's over, everybody's hugging and laughing, and I miss those old days of like the players running off the field angry.
Total stats for you, both teams with 17 first downs for each team tonight. 368 total offensive yards for the Steelers. They outgained to the Browns 304 yards. Rushing wise, the Steelers 120 yards rushing, only 85 for the Browns. Penalties, I thought this was key early on. The Browns actually finished the game with 8 penalties for 48 yards. The Steelers 6 for 39, but I'd have to go back and look, man, but I swear those 6 penalties for 39 yards all took place within the first quarter and a half. The Steelers were highly penalized early on in this game.
And those blizzards, man. I mean, don't you think there's now, when that blizzard starts, the refs are so conscious on just trying to make sure the game's called correctly. There's 5 holds on. If there's 3 holds on every play normally, there's 10 holds that are going on. You just don't see it. So that's just the one where it's just like all bets are off. This is just a free for all.
Here's how weird this game was. The Steelers win the time of possession, 35 minutes to the Browns, 25 minutes. The Steelers 1 turnover, Cleveland 3 turnovers. And the Steelers, again, outgained the Browns 368 to 304. If you told me all that in any NFL game, I don't care if it's the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, if you win all those categories, 98% of the time you're going to win the football game. No doubt, whether you're on the road or not. So was it the weather? Was it the environment? Was it Thursday night? Was it
Come
Mike
on, man. It
Tomlin?
was the weather. It
I
was
don't
the
know what it was.
weather.
I don't know what it was. Hey, let's
Wait,
get
wait. You're leaving it open for people to blame Tomlin. Dude, this is the weather. So if you were like, you gave me all those
oh,
stats,
I'm
you'd
not
say the Steelers would win. If I was like, but keep in mind, before you guess who won, there was a blizzard that took all visibility out. No one could move you'd go, well, I
well,
guess it just who was the last person to touch the ball.
I'm going to tell you a fact,
Uh,
and whether
Tell me.
whether people want to hear it or not. Here's the fact:
Okay.
Mike Tomlin, whether you want to hear it or not, is a Hall of Fame football coach. He probably will finish as the all-time leading total wins in Steeler coaching history. No doubt. He's going to do it. He may win another Super Bowl. Hopefully for Steeler Nation, he does win another Super Bowl. Will he win 4 like Chuck Noll did? Probably not. But will he get his second here at some point and play in a third? I think it's a very big possibility before he's all said and done with. But here's where Steeler Nation and the Tomlin critics will like what I'm about to say. He's always good for one of these games. Just go back and look at his coaching career. There's always a game at Oakland, at the Raiders, against the Browns. He's done it multiple times. There's been other games against the Titans or the Jaguars where they're absolutely supposed to win that game and they don't. That's why at the beginning of the season in the last couple of weeks, I've been saying they're going to lose this game at Cleveland. This is a typical Tomlin game where they're going to show up and they're going to lose. Now, I love Tomlin. I still think he's a great coach. I'm not saying fire him. I'm not saying anything else. He's a Hall of Fame coach, but go back and look at his coaching career. These are always the games in which they lose, plain and simple. They're going to drop. They may even drop well, I'm looking at their schedule. I guess the only other, there's 2. They play 2 games against the Bengals, and then they get the Browns again. Other than that, they play all winning teams left. So,
look, man, it's tough to be a Steeler, and I agree with everything you're saying about Tomlin. You do have to, if you're gonna, if you're gonna do a full autopsy on him, everything that you said is true. However, there's one problem in all of this, and you saw it in Cleveland tonight, and you see it every game, really, is that the Steelers bring out the best in other teams.
correct.
We are the Super Bowl
Sure.
for other teams. You're angry that Steeler fans have taken over the stadium. You're angry that Tomlin's got swagger. You're mad about everything that your team doesn't have that the Steelers have. Look at the Browns tonight. They are not going anywhere, and it was a fun time in the snow. But like you said earlier in the show, this was their Super Bowl, and there has to be some. It's probably Nick Saban. When someone plays Alabama, he's going to tell you the same thing. It's probably the same when people play the Lakers and LeBron. It's just the way it goes. And so there's
Yankees.
just certain when you play the Yankees, every night's the World Series.
Right.
So all of these guys got to bring their best, and it's hard to do it every single time consistently. But that being said, all the excuses gone. Even the snow, and I'm old man winter right here saying just let it go. Losing and whatever the person's name was who said it earlier, losing to a 2-8 team. This was what happened last year. If we're going to go down negative lane, we lost to the Pats, we lost to the Cardinals, and the season was off the rails. So this is our wake up call. I don't think this is the beginning of the end, but it is a wake up call to say, look, 8-3 is not 9-2, and it's a big difference in the NFL. So all these teams are knocking. So this was our wake up call.
The good news for Steeler, good news for Steeler Nation is they have 9 days to figure it out. They now have a 9-day off situation. Mini bye, some people like to say it, from Thursday to the following Sunday. December 1st is their next game at Cincinnati. So a lot of people say this is a mini bye. That's the good news. After you play a Thursday night game, you get an extended period off to kind of regroup and get ready. So that's the good news right now for the Steelers. They have,
but the bad news is Cincinnati's off this week too. So it's 2 fresh teams that are going to have a week off to get ready for this game.
Yeah, Cincinnati and also Baltimore on their bye week. That leads me to my next point. Your AFC North standings: Steelers still in first place, 9-3. 8-3. The Ravens 7-4. The Bengals 4-7, and the Browns now 3-8. So the Steelers still have a 1-game lead in the AFC North. Could have went to 2 games if they would have beat the Browns tonight. That would have been a 2-game lead over the Ravens. Now it's back to 1. But this is how the AFC North is going to be figured out That's why you mentioned it earlier. That's why HBO's doing Hard Knocks, because this division is so good and so competitive and so tight, and it always comes down to those final couple weeks. No one's going to run away with this division here within the
And
next
the
couple
NFL
weeks.
won't let you run away with it. That's why this,
Correct. Yeah.
we only saw the Ravens last. We only saw the first AFC North opponent last week for the first time, and the Ravens at home. That's unbelievable. The NFL knows exactly what it needs to do. I heard Tomlin on his pregame show on DVE tonight talking about the parity in the league. You're only, you're everyone's so close to their next butt kicking, and he's right. But the NFL wanted to make sure there's double parity in this league. What if we stack all these games together? No more opening games against Cleveland, no more 9-11 games against Cleveland, and starting the season in Baltimore. Oh, the season starts now. The NFL knows that, but they doubled down on beating the shit out of the AFC North.
Absolutely. And it's going to come down probably to those last couple games, where the Steelers will play Cincinnati that last week. And I think the Browns and Ravens will meet again there towards the end as well. And it always does come down to those final couple of weeks. Hey, real quick.
Hey, don't forget, let's throw the first place Eagles and the almost undefeated first place Chiefs in there between all of this. You don't think we got the toughest schedule going in to the final stretch? Oh my God, it's a murderer's row.
There's two things I wanted to ask you. One is, this 3-game stretch that the Steelers just ended, they played, 3 games in 11 days or something crazy like that. Started out of the bye week at Washington. They win that game. This past Sunday, they beat the Ravens and they lose to Cleveland tonight. At the beginning of this 3-game stretch, I was hoping they'd win one of the 3. I would have been thrilled if they would have won 2, and I would have been astonished if they would have won 3. So the fact that they went 2-1 in this stretch, I feel pretty good about at this point.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Wait a minute. 1 out of 2.
No,
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Yeah. Now you're confusing me. You're putting 2 and 1 up. Too many hand signals. But for them to go 2-1 through this 3-game stretch, that's perfect. Now, I would have thought if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago during the bye week, I probably would have said, hey, look, they're probably going to lose to I have ADD, so you're messing with me, man. Now I can't concentrate.
I just have I left the flue on opened in the chimney and a bird went in.
Oh, really? Is that true? There it is. Is that it?
Wait.
I would have thought they beat Cleveland and hopefully they beat Baltimore or Washington, but that one loss would have came against either Washington or Baltimore. But it's flipped. They beat the Commanders, they beat the Ravens, they lose to the Browns tonight. My final thought for you, my friend, is what did you think of the graphic on the screen? The AI, whatever it was, the snow, the field was completely covered, and Prime Video puts the yard markers. That was all digitally created. Did you know that?
What? I didn't know that. I thought that they ran out there with the shovels and got them.
No, that was Al Michaels said that. He said, back to the production bus. Good job, guys, putting that graphic on there. I thought that was kind of neat. It looked pretty real, too.
I had no problems with the Amazon Prime games. Amazon, I thought, like when you watch Apple TV for baseball or you watch some of the streaming services that come in, they overdo it. Like it's like watching the games from outer space. And so it's too much. I think, give it to Amazon Prime. Let me make one more mention if there's even anybody left awake right now. I know you're barely awake. Me too. What about the snub? Did you pick up on the slight snub against our boy Rob King, the play-by-play man for the Steelers? In the beginning, Amazon Prime showed a highlight reel. They had Randy Bauman from DVE talking about it, the guy from whatever, but they had the voice of Bill Hillgrove talking about Najee running for, that's Najee Harris. Now, Bill is no longer the voice of the Steelers. Rob King, I think Amazon Prime owes him a big apology.
Well, not to mention,
be like the Cubs in the playoffs, and they're showing Harry Carey clips.
Well, they did the Najee call with Hillgrove, but then the next call was TJ Watt. It was a TJ Watt sack, and I believe the call was Hillgrove saying he's got the record Which I
Right.
don't know. Maybe that was a couple years ago when he got the sack record. He tied Strahan. That had to be what it was. But my goodness, that was during the 2021 season, I think, when he won the
Yeah, I thought
Defensive Player of the Year.
they snubbed our
That's
buddy Rob. Hey,
3 years ago.
Do your Hillgrove impression real fast. That's
And
always fun.
it's TJ Watt in the backfield. He makes the tackle. Order your Pizza Outlet pizza now and have it ordered by halftime with your score. That kick is up. It's high enough. It's long enough. And it's good. With your score, the Pitt Panthers strike midnight and they upset the Syracuse Orangemen. We'll see you next week with Phil Devine. I'll just stop. Hey, it was fun. The game was fun. The result, not what we wanted. 24-19. The Browns over the Steelers. One programming announcement, my friend.
Okay.
The Troopcast, the weekly podcast here on Oneberg that I do.
Yes.
I got an email tonight. I didn't even reach out to him. I got an email just completely out of the blue.
Tell me.
You think he'd be working at KDKA doing his pregame stuff, and my email lights up, and it's the Bob Pompiani saying, how about next week? And I said, sure, let's do it. Let me know a day and time. His response was, I'll have to let you know.
Okay, but hold on, wait a
greatest.
second. This is big. You've been wanting to get Pomp since
Forever.
Oneberg started, since Ed Troop, the Ed Troop era of sports took over Oneberg. All you've wanted was Bob Pompiani, and now you're so close. Close the deal, man.
But I love Pomp. The response is completely out of the blue on a Steeler Thursday night, so you know he's working. And then when I said, sure, let's do it anytime. You let me know the day and time. He goes, I'll let you know. So now we're waiting. We're going to wait again, but that's okay. Pomp, I will wait for you. We'll get you on the Troopcast hopefully next week. Maybe a Thanksgiving treat.
Yeah, what if he's like, hey, Thanksgiving at 4:00?
I did think of that. Hey, I got to work the Thanksgiving Day NFL games here on KDKA on CBS. How about
Right. He's like, I'll throw you a bone. Are you thankful for me yet? And you'll go,
hey,
yeah, all right. Pomp's giving.
I'm
Well,
in.
dude, if Pomp's on Thanksgiving, I'll be there. I won't miss it for Pomp for Thanksgiving. Thanks Piani. Is it Pomp's giving or is it Thanks Piani?
I like Pomp's giving. I like Pomp's giving.
Pomp's giving is good. Bob was kind enough to be part of the commercial that we did with Barry Bonds in the wine shirt. Hilarious. It really made my day that he did it. It was a highlight for me. I know for you too. And I think Bob gets a little bit of enjoyment when we goof on him and talk about him on Oneberg. He shares all the stuff that we goof on him about. And I didn't get a chance to post this today. I'll do it tomorrow. I just saw that Point Park University announced that they're giving out the Bob Pompiani Scholarship, and this is right where you would have been back in the day at Bell Vernon, to an area high school team or person that it does the best sports produced show.
That would have been me 25 years ago.
You would have got that. Ed Troop back in the day at Bell Vernon when you graduated in 1976. You would have got that.
I thought you were going to say the Bob Pompiani Award was for the best Bill Hillgrove impression.
Do it one more time.
I thought that's where you were going for it. Your final score. Here, I'll sign off with it. How about that?
Are you going to do the Pizza Outlet part?
Order your Pizza Outlet pizza now. Have it delivered by halftime with your score. Hey, final score tonight in my Hillgrove voice. The Browns 24, the Steelers 19. Have a great night, everyone.
Wait, can I finish with my Al Michaels?
You got the floor, my friend.
Thank you. Well, and that we'll have to keep that conversation till next week in Kansas City. Partner, we'll see you there. For Kurt Herbstreit, Michelle Tafoya, and everyone at the Amazon Prime headquarters, I'm Al Michaels from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, saying good night, where the Steelers fall 18-16. Is that what the score was?
24-19, but hey, close enough. They were up. It was 18-16 at one point. Then they were up, but
Michaels looks a little disheveled tonight. He's kind of got that old man look now. Like he's got that really severe comb over. He's got that buttoned golf shirt open. His jacket's like half open. He's starting to go not all the way, so please don't kill me yet. He's like on his way to being like Lee Corso. This Kurt Herbstreit has to look around and be like, is there anybody that I can do football with that's not 100 years old?
Chris Fowler. Chris Fowler's the only one that his saving grace that he does the
If
Saturday night
Fowler's
game.
going to have a stroke next week and they're going to
Oh,
wheel
boy.
him in with like the eye patch like Jay Leno.
Oh, boy. Good stuff, my friend. Hey,
Yes.
that's going to do it for the Steeler post-game show. For Brian, we will sign off for now. We'll see you in about 9 days, December 1st. It'll be the Steelers at Cincinnati. And tonight's final score, once again, the Browns 24, the Steelers 19. The Steelers now 8-3 on the season. They have 9 days off before they get ready to go to Cincinnati on December 1st. Have a great night, everyone. It has been the Shenderovich and Fishman Steeler postgame show right here.